This is part 31 of our Link's Awakening walkthrough, and in this part we're going to be taking on Turtle Rock, which is the final dungeon in the game, and by far the longest and most complex.
It's definitely the most confusing. I played this I think about a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And dude, I got lost. And I've already played it one time before. I could just not figure out this place. There's so much backtracking in this dungeon.
It really is. It really is. You find yourself in the same 7 or 8 rooms over and over and over again.
Oh, you do. And I'm actually, one of the reasons I really like this dungeon because it reminds me of a lot of the last levels in the Mario games.
Oh, it does.
With the lava and everything. So I kind of like how it kind of switched that up right here. And it's the same kind of color red, but for some reason it feels like there's a little more color in this dungeon.
It does. And I will be honest, after the first, it took me a long time playing this dungeon the first time. After a while, the color kind of started bothering me a little bit, just this bright red, bright orange. But you're right, it does kind of throw back a little bit to those Mario, lava, all that stuff. Especially when we get to some of the underground areas a little later on, the side
that looks dead up like Mario. And then
exactly.
I think later on, don't the hook shot has the Bowser heads also that you hook shot to, don't you? So, but we had Mario references throughout this entire game, so which I really like about this game.
Another thing I love about this dungeon is going back.
Is that you can kill that enemy with one boomerang right there, bam!
Heck of a lot easier the first time we fought him for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But going back and refighting all these mini bosses is just so much fun, and it's a lot easier now for most of them because, like you said, the boomerang's so overpowered. Yeah. Or it's just, we know what we're doing a heck of a lot better now than we did when we first started.
I always got to remind you that you're getting to the end of a Zelda game, because it seems like in every Zelda game, we start hitting mini bosses, that you face throughout, it's usually close to the very end. So
it's a good feeling when you're getting close to the
which you should know that you're getting the last instrument anyway. So.
Yeah. But I will tell you what, if this little gravity thing catches you, I realize it takes you all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon.
It does. And actually, one of the mini bosses we find later on, the boxer actually, if he hits you too, he knocks you all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon.
Let's just say I had to redo this dungeon a couple times to get a clean walk.
Hey, it happens. But in this dungeon, it really doesn't matter that much going back to the beginning because it seems like you're doing it. Well, here we go. Here we're doing it already. So, you're always going back to the beginning, going back to this room, I'm getting confused just thinking about it right now.
We end up in this second room where we're fighting this Vire. We end up fighting this one guy 6 times in this very room because, like we said, you backtrack so much. And even now, we actually warp back to the beginning on 2 or 3 different occasions.
Yeah, I wish I would have known that. And I even, I commentated, this walkthrough. Yeah. And I still didn't know I could do it when I was playing. And I've talked about it.
Yeah. Normally it's not too hard to get back to the entrance, but it's just so much quicker.
Now, this dungeon map is so frustrating. I played this dungeon twice, and it's taken me forever both times to find a dungeon map. And it's literally, right there in front of you.
Well, if you don't think about moving those blocks, though, you just think it's they're blocking my way. I can't go that way.
I guess I always think, that cracked wall is, inside that little boxing area. So, you always have to get through, that right there, but you don't. So, I don't know. I just didn't get it both times, I guess.
I can see it would be very easy to overlook. And here's the first of those underground areas that we mentioned a few minutes ago. Just you got the lava
love it.
Just it's such a throwback to the Mario games.
Like I said, we begin a lot of Mario references throughout, but I think this is probably the closest one.
Definitely.
Really to we've had a lot of the enemies from Mario, but this looks the most like a level in Mario.
It feels like Bowser's Castle from the end.
It really does. It really does. I just like how they did that for the very last dungeon.
It felt appropriate.
You know what the frustrating thing about taking so long to get the map was? This was actually the dungeon I needed it in.
Oh, I know.
Because a lot of the other dungeons, I really don't need the map that much. This one, oh my gosh, you need it.
You have to have it. Although I will say, sometimes it doesn't even do you as much good as you want because you're just gonna keep running through the same rooms over and over again anyway.
That's actually some of the confusion.
Yeah.
And I love this part right here.
Oh man.
I don't know, man. You must not play pitch and catch with your dad enough. When you're growing up because I don't know what you're doing right here.
Well, I couldn't get my distance down with all these throws.
Actually, what you got to do is you got to get kind of below him.
And that's what I
Because you're throwing from your hands or whatever.
Yeah.
When you actually do finally hit him,
I hit him 3 times in a row.
You nailed 4 times in a row.
Yeah, it just took me forever to get that range.
It was fun to watch, though.
There we go. Now I've got him in my sights. Like you said, you have to be a little below him.
Yeah, you do. Right. You do. It took me a couple times too, but man, I just remember watching that preparing. I was like, yes, this is hilarious.
Yeah, I think I had trouble with that guy the first time we had to find him back in a couple dungeons ago. I think that was Face Shrine.
It's one of your enemies, man. You just can't get. Maybe Face Shrine.
Because that's when we got the level 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we faced him.
I could be dead wrong on that too.
Yeah, and this little thing, first of all, those little things that were sliding across the floor called rocks, that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like the rocks.
Right here, that does not look like a rock. at all. But man, it took me forever. Like, I guess I never hit that owl statue right there.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
had no idea you could change directions with that thing.
Yep.
Oh, dude, the first time I played this dungeon, it was like the water temple all over again.
Oh no.
It was misery.
Well, I will say, if you don't even think about going up to that owl statue room, I mean, I think that's the only time we ever make it into that room.
Well, it had one of those suckers or magnets or whatever it did.
Yeah.
Or like, it was a BMOS. It had a BMOS.
A BMOS.
I think I saw it like that owl statue kind of that corner, and
Yeah.
then there's a BMOS. I'm like, forget this.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
for
it's not
the owl
worth it.
statue.
And
Yeah.
kind of find out that it would totally been worth it.
And here we are back into that opening room again for the third time.
It's the main central hub right here, which we've had those in many dungeons.
For sure, and I actually like the concept of having a central hub. It's like kind of keeps you grounded.
But not so much in 2D games though.
That's
we
very
have
true.
them a lot in like 3D dungeons, but not a lot in 2D.
That's actually a good point. Yeah,
I have
mostly-
them every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll throw one at you.
most of the 2D games, you're doing enough like exploring of the dungeon that you don't keep coming back to one area.
Mm-hmm.
This is, like we said, the backtracking in this is definitely one of the exceptions.
But I do like this dungeon. Like, I remember, I don't think I said this, maybe I said it earlier in the commentary right here, but we did our rankings recently.
I don't think we talked about
okay,
this
I
yet,
wasn't sure if I did or not. But we talked about and wrote down our rankings recently for this, or dungeon ranking for this game.
Yeah.
And this actually crept up pretty high, I think. I had 2 and you had 3, so
It really did.
we really didn't think it, but I mean, I didn't like it that much the first couple times I played it, but it
Yeah.
really just crept up there, and it's really a great dungeon in this game.
And I think the biggest selling point, and this kind of goes for a lot of the 2D top-down games, is that it's the dungeons you remember always end up creeping up higher on the list. And obviously this being one of the more complicated, and also, and
I was gonna say, I don't know if I was remembering it for the right reasons.
but still, you remembered. I remember going
Uh-huh.
back and trying to think about like some of the earlier dungeons in this game. Even though we've commentated them, we've played through them here recently, I'm still like, I can barely picture
Yeah,
them.
you still forget some. I'm like, they're just not that memorable sometimes.
Yeah, but then I went back and watched a few of our awesome dungeon walkthroughs.
Yeah,
videos.
yes.
And
The best on the internet, from what I've been told.
From what I've
this is
been
not
told.
this is not my opinion. This is just from what people have been telling me.
Yep. It's just it's nice. It's like this is one of those that really stood out.
Yeah, it did.
And those Dodongo snakes back there a couple rooms ago that we just skipped, you could have went ahead and killed them right there, but it wouldn't have done
It's a
you
waste
any
of time.
good.
Yeah, because I did that.
Yeah.
Like you kill them, and then that chest pops up, and you're like, oh, awesome, and then
Yeah.
like, it just. Like so you find a way to get there.
Yep.
And then when you get there, treasure chest is not there anymore.
You gotta
so
kill them all over.
Whatever.
again. It's actually going to be all the way in part 32, I think, the second half of this dungeon before we actually get back to killing them.
Yeah, sure.
I'm pretty sure it's not in this part.
I'm not really
anyway.
sure, to be honest with you.
Now this kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier with like the Bowser heads.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just another little throwback to the Mario.
Now, when we got the hook shot, I think, in Catfish's Mall, and we had to use these heads, were they also Bowser heads in that one? I think they were, but I'm not positive.
I can't remember if they were that or just like regular like gargoyle.
Yeah, it could have been that.
statues.
It could have been
I'm
that.
not sure. We haven't done Catfish Mall for a while.
Yeah, sure, we haven't. I want to say it was Bowser, though, but not positive.
And here we are back in the Spikes room again.
Like, oh, dude, like you said, there's so much. That's the one thing I don't like. We obviously don't like backtracking. We've talked about it in our live videos.
Oh,
but
yeah.
This one was a little extreme.
And that's why I do like at least this part where finally, like, if you kind of see vaguely the outline of the arrow.
We can bomb all those stones right there, and
Yeah.
it shows an arrow right there.
Plus, this is such a random little touch. I love how it looks like a T in the middle of the floor there, the hole.
I guess that stands for Toe Rock. Well,
That's my thought.
I never even noticed that until you just mentioned it now.
It's like, I mean, it may not stand for Total Rock, and it may just totally
It
be-
may not even be a T, actually.
It
It could
may
just
not
be
be-
like a design in the game, but I mean,
It looks like-
I do agree with you. It does look like a T, and I never noticed that until you said it.
Yeah, it's just a nice little touch.
We're teaching people stuff today.
We're trying to.
Not teach you how to play,
No.
just like what the symbols in the game mean. Apparently.
As I run into the easiest enemies, those snakes.
I was like, where are you going here? Because you weren't going up to unlock that
Not
stone
yet.
right there.
Not yet. Got to get a few more keys here first. And that's one thing I didn't like about this dungeon is how many keys there are. Because Key Cavern was probably one of my least favorites.
Yeah,
in this
you don't
entire
like
game.
it at all.
Not a fan at all. But I feel like this one's keys are a little more spread out.
They
than
are.
that
They're a little
that
spread.
one were.
Now I hate this right here because that owl statues or the owl beak or whatever.
Yeah.
It says like hit the statue that looks strange or weird. That statue looks the same as like any other statue. It doesn't look weird at all or strange than any other one we've seen in this game.
The only thing I can think of, and I just now noticed this, is that it's black and white instead of color.
What the statue is?
Yeah.
No, the ones in the beginning were like a silver.
That's true.
That's
That's
same
true.
color. I think the ones at the very entrance to this place were the same colors.
They may have been. They may have been.
Not positive, I'm pretty sure, but just
I'm just grabbing for straws as to why it might look different.
yeah, okay. But I just didn't understand, like, I mean, obviously you're supposed to shoot at that one right there, but
Yeah.
it didn't look any stranger than any other one.
Man, what happens if you don't have the bow? I mean,
that's a good point though. But you've seen that store the whole game,
Yeah.
so you're going to eventually end up buying
And
it.
you're getting it to 980 rupees.
And you know, like,
990
I was
rupees.
actually upset that, like, you know, I was playing through the first time when I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, man, you have to buy this bow for something. You have to buy this bow for something, and you really don't even need it, I think, until right there in the game.
That might be the only time we need it, but I can't remember. So either way, this wraps up part 31 of the Link's Awakening walkthrough.